What is up, Broncos fans? I am back here again to do another video. I just wanted to touch on some of the prospects I hope that the Broncos take in the first round of tomorrow night's 2020 NFL Draft. Of course, today is the eve of the 2020 NFL Draft, and I just wanted to get a quick video out there and touch on some of the prospects I hope we target. Again, a lot of these guys that I'm going to touch on in this video probably are going to go in the first round and probably go tomorrow night, so you're not going to hear me talk about a lot of sleepers or go in depth into some of the prospects I'd like to see us take in the later rounds. Just going to focus on tomorrow night's first round and the guys that I think we could target at pick 15, or if we trade back or trade up. I think there's a lot of possibilities for Denver. But obviously we're living in a really uncertain and unusual time right now with the coronavirus pandemic and how it's affected all of us across the globe, not just in America and not just in this country. And it's going to be like no draft we've ever experienced before, with it all being virtual. But it's still nice to have some sort of normalcy and some sort of distraction with the NFL draft continuing. And before I get into this video, I just want to say to anyone watching this, I hope that your families haven't been affected with this virus, haven't gotten this virus. I hope you yourself have stayed healthy throughout this, and I really just hope everyone can really see the bigger picture view with this thing, and that it's not just about you or me or any one individual. This is a collective thing that we're all dealing with. And really is the time to be united, because I've seen a lot of division online and throughout the world, and I've done my best to block it out. But I just kind of wanted to say that before I get into this video and touch on some of these prospects, is I genuinely hope everyone out there is doing well. Your families are staying healthy. You're staying mentally and physically as fit and healthy as you can be. And genuinely, I'm thinking about everyone out there that's watching this video, and we are going to get through this. It's just about patience and being united. And I really appreciate anyone watching this, and my thoughts are with you and your families during this time. Right, guys, so now getting into this preview, if you will, for the Broncos and the 2020 NFL Draft. I think it's a pretty clear picture of what positions the Broncos are going to be looking to target in round one tomorrow night at pick number 15. I think the three positions that are at the top of the list for the Broncos are obviously wide receiver, obviously offensive tackle, and linebacker. I'm sure some people would say defensive back, and you could throw some other positions in there, but I really think those are the three big positions the Broncos are going to be looking at in tomorrow night's NFL Draft, at least in round one, and the three biggest positions of need for us. And I think a lot of the focus is going to be on that receiver position for the Broncos, and rightfully so. That is a hole that we need to fill. We need to add another weapon to this offensive unit, and because I think receiver is the position of importance in this draft for the Broncos, and luckily for us, this might be the greatest receiver class of all time. You've heard so many analysts and people say that, and it's very true. The depth of this receiver class is incredible. But because of that, most of this video I'm going to focus on receiver prospects that I'd like to see the Broncos target, and a lot of them are going to be familiar names that you guys have heard probably multiple times thrown around, not only as the top receivers in this class, but also guys that are linked to the Broncos. And there's no escaping that there's a clear big three in this draft at the wide receiver position, and that would be CeeDee Lamb of Oklahoma, Henry Ruggs III of Alabama, and Jerry Jeudy of Alabama. And ideally, it would be great if the Broncos could get one of those three guys. I think it would be absolutely enormous, absolutely huge for our team going forward if we're able to get one of these three guys. But there is a very good chance that all three of those guys are going to be gone before pick 15. So if we want one of those three guys, we're probably going to have to trade up or hope by some way that one of them falls. And I think there is a chance that one of them will be there at 15. But given who's picking in front of us, whether it be the Jets, whether it be the Niners, whether it be the Raiders, to me, there's just a really good chance all three of these guys are gone before pick 15. And if that happens, then maybe at pick 15 the Broncos turn their attention to the offensive tackle position, or maybe even the linebacker position. Maybe they look to trade back and go that route, or maybe they trade out of 15 if all three are gone and take another receiver. And there's going to be a couple receivers as well that I talk about in this video outside of CeeDee Lamb, Jerry Jeudy, and Henry Ruggs that I could see the Broncos taking at 15 if those three guys are gone, or if we do decide to trade back. I think, again, that's one of the great things about the depth of this receiver class is if we're not able to get one of those big three, there's still so many talented guys in this class at the receiver position that still would help our offense and be, I think, great fits next to Courtland Sutton and great weapons to utilize for Drew Lock going into next season. But if we are going to talk about the receiver position, we got to start with that big three and talk about that big three and start off with the receiver of that group of three that I think is the best and the best wide receiver overall in this draft, and that of course is CeeDee Lamb out of Oklahoma. 6'2", 198 pounds, ran a 4.5 40 at the combine, had a 34.5-inch vertical jump. You're talking about a guy that is just so versatile, just has such great all-around ability, and without question of this receiver group is the best playmaker of the group, especially with the ball in his hands. You're talking about a guy that's so slippery in the open field, so elusive, easily can break tackles in multiple ways, and really is a big threat at every level. Is a guy that has just insane special yak ability, yards after catch ability. I mean, again, this guy, if you put the ball in his hands, it's something special, man. It really is unlike, I think, maybe any receiver even in the league currently. He really is such a dynamic playmaker when that ball's in his hands. He could take a jailbreak screen for 50 yards, or he's a guy that can be a deep threat and take the top off of a defense. And you're also talking about a guy that's got great hands, great physicality as well. 6'2", 200 pounds, has really solid size, and I think even has some ability to add some value in the punt return game for whatever team drafts him. And the thing I love a lot about CeeDee Lamb that I think a lot of people fail to talk about, and obviously again a lot of people focus on his ability as a playmaker with the ball in his hands and how elusive he is, and again he's very special, his yak ability. But this is a guy that produced with 3 different quarterbacks at Oklahoma, whether it was Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray, or last season with Jalen Hurts. His numbers never dwindled. I mean, he was just uber productive, had 173 catches, 3,292 yards, and 32 touchdowns over the last 3 seasons, again with 3 different quarterbacks. So to me, that's a very positive sign as well. And again, is a guy that I think is just so special. You add this guy to your offense, and he is a game changer. And you put him next to Courtland Sutton. You know, Courtland Sutton is easily a Pro Bowl #1 wide receiver already in the game. I think he's one of the best receivers in the NFL already. But you know, there's a great chance CeeDee Lamb comes in day one and is better than him already. I mean, that's how special this guy is. And again, just his versatility to be a big play threat at every level. And again, you just put the ball in his hands, regardless of, again, if it's deep down the field, if it's on the screen, if it's on a reverse. This is a guy that is just such a special playmaker. And really can do it all. To me, he's a more elusive DeAndre Hopkins. That's the comparison you've heard ad nauseum for him, but it really is, I think, a very good comparison. And DeAndre Hopkins might be the best receiver in the NFL right now, and CeeDee Lamb is more elusive than him. You know, is a more elusive version of him. That's how special this guy can be. I don't see that there's any way he falls to number 15. I think he could easily go number 11 to the Jets, number 12 to the Raiders, or 13 to the Niners, unfortunately. So if we want him, we probably will have to trade up. But if we do trade up for him, or he does fall to 15, absolutely home run pick for John Elway and company. And I would be just giddy to add CeeDee Lamb to our offense, and to have him and Courtland Sutton on the outside, Noah Fant at tight end, Melvin Gordon and Phillip Lindsay now at the running back position. I mean, what a dynamic group of playmakers Drew Lock would have to work with. And regardless if we get him or not, CeeDee Lamb is going to be special, and I think an all-time wide receiver and a all-pro wide receiver for the next decade. The next receiver you got to talk about is Jerry Jeudy out of Alabama. Definitely, I think, you know, obviously CeeDee Lamb is the best of this big three, but I don't think there's much that separates him and Jerry Jeudy. Jerry Jeudy is also just so special, and whatever team gets him is just getting such a dynamic playmaker. 6'1", 193 pounds, ran a 4.45 40 at the combine, had a 35-inch vertical, also ran a 4.53 in the 20-yard shuttle. You're talking about a guy that is just so polished, so smooth, and is just a freakish route runner. I mean, I'm not sure he's the best route runner of this group. It's probably between him or Justin Jefferson or Van Jefferson. It's one of the three of them. But I mean, in terms of route running, he's definitely a better route runner than CeeDee Lamb, and might be the best route runner of this class. And you add his ability as a route runner with his shiftiness and his quickness, I mean, this guy is just so special. He's also a playmaker at every level. Even again, if he's not as elusive or special, so to say, as CeeDee Lamb is with the ball in his hands, Jerry Jeudy is a guy that can kill you deep and can be a deep threat, or can kill you in the short game and in the underneath game as well. And again, as I mentioned before, just is so polished, so smooth, and also is just very dynamic. And again, the route running is just a thing of beauty to watch from Jerry Jeudy, and you combine that with his quickness and shiftiness. He is he's a special kid, and he's a guy that welcomes contact. And really doesn't shy away from physicality, and to me is a lot like Odell Beckham. Definitely, I think there's similarities between the two of them, and has also been uber productive the past 2 seasons at Alabama. 145 catches, 2,428 yards, and 24 touchdowns for Jeudy over those last 2 seasons. And again, I think he's a great kid, has a great story, be a great compliment to Courtland Sutton, and again, just a beautiful weapon for Drew Lock to utilize. And again, maybe he's not as special of a playmaker as CeeDee Lamb, and maybe he's not as good as CeeDee Lamb, but there is not much separating him. And again, I think he's Odell Beckham-like. You have a chance to add a weapon like him, you got to take it. And I think there's a better chance he'll be there at 15 than CeeDee Lamb, but again, I think there's also a great chance he goes before. But would love to see him in the orange and blue, and whatever team gets him is getting such a incredible route runner, with great quickness, great shiftiness, and just a great kid overall. Henry Ruggs III, also out of Alabama, maybe my favorite receiver of this entire class, and is a guy that really is just an athletic freak. 5'11", 188 pounds, ran a 4.27 40 at the NFL Combine, had a 42-inch vertical. Again, you're talking about a guy that is just a special athlete, freak athlete, speed demon, without question the best deep threat in this draft, best vertical threat in this class. In terms of when you hear that term, taking the top off of a defense, he does that with flying colors. As a true home run hitter, has that game-breaking speed. I mean, you send this guy on a slant, he'll take that slant for 80 yards like in the snap of your fingers. I mean, he makes cornerbacks look silly on slants because of his speed. And again, really to me reminds me of a bigger version of Tyreek Hill. And at this point in his career, compared to when Tyreek Hill was coming out of college, might be more polished and more dynamic than Tyreek Hill. That's how special this kid is. And again, is the best deep threat in this class. You look at his time in Alabama, he had 18 touchdown catches the last 2 seasons at Alabama. He averaged 17.5 yards per catch on those 18 touchdowns. Again, just as a true deep threat, athletic freak, and has really special speed, again evident by that 4.27 40-yard dash. And like Jerry Jeudy, just has a great story. This is a kid who's overcome tragedy to get to this point. Lost his best friend in a car crash in 2016, and has had to overcome that and has been fueled by that. Just a great kid, I think, overall. And my favorite receiver of these 3 guys, and maybe in this entire class, and is just so dynamic. He's the kind of playmaker you want to add to your offense, and he's a guy that's been linked to us pretty heavily. I think he even said in a pre-draft interview that we've been in constant contact with him in the pre-draft process. Obviously there's some heavy interest from us in Henry Ruggs, and I would be ecstatic to get him. Again, like CeeDee Lamb and Jerry Jeudy, I find it really hard to believe that he's going to fall to 15. I don't think there's any way he's fallen past 13. I think San Francisco loves him as well, and what an addition he would be to that offense with Deebo Samuel and Kyle Shanahan in his mind. I mean, I think San Francisco, especially after what Tyreek Hill did to their defense in the Super Bowl, this is a guy I think that they would want to have. But this is a weapon that if we add to our offense, again, you add him to Courtland Sutton, you have this, on one side, this freak in Courtland Sutton who's this big athletic wide receiver with just incredible catch radius, makes these spectacular catches look easy. One of the best 50-50 ball, jump ball threats in the game, great red zone threat. And on the other side, you have Henry Ruggs, who's this Tyreek Hill-esque, playmaker with his speed and his ability as a deep threat, and his ability again to destroy DBs on slants and take those 80 yards up the field, and what he can do in the screen game and on reverses, and how creative you can get as a play caller with him. I mean, just what a beautiful tandem that wide receiver Ruggs and Courtland Sutton could be. And You got Noah Fant there in the middle, and then in the backfield you got Melvin Gordon and Phillip Lindsay. I mean, man, that's a lot of juice, so to say, if you will, that you now have on the offensive side of the football that we've been missing for several seasons. And I'm sure Drew Lock would be ecstatic to test out his arm strength with a guy like Henry Ruggs who has the speed he does and is the deep threat that he does. So I love this kid, love Henry Ruggs, and it'd be absolutely thrilling to get him at 15. But again, no way I think he's fallen there, and no way I think he falls past San Francisco at pick 13, especially if Jerry Jeudy and CeeDee Lamb go before pick 13. But it would be amazing to get him here in the Mile High City. Now that I talked about that big three at the wide receiver position group, now I'm going to talk about three other prospects in this 2020 draft class that I think all will probably be there at pick 15, and all still would be great picks for the Broncos, even if we aren't able to get Jerry Jeudy, CeeDee Lamb, or Henry Ruggs. I think these three guys would still be great fits, and I think even in the case of two of these guys, probably all three, we could trade back from pick 15 and still get them, and I think would be great additions to our offense and still fill that need and void we have at the receiver position. And the first guy I'm going to talk about here is Justin Jefferson out of LSU. Some people, have this guy ranked as the number 2 or 3 wide receiver in this group and have him really with that big 3 and kind of view this more as a big 4, if you will, in this 2020 draft class. And this kid, I think, has the chance to be every bit as special as Lamb, Jeudy, or Ruggs, and I would be thrilled. Even if we stayed at 15 and picked him, I'd be ecstatic. But he's a guy I think we could even trade back a couple spots and still get, maybe add another pick or two, and would be a stellar fit in our offense. Justin Jefferson, 6'1", 202 pounds, ran a 4.4 340 at the NFL Combine, had a 37.5-inch vertical jump. You're just talking about a guy with insane production at LSU. Last season was Joe Burrow's favorite target, hands down. Had 111 catches, 1,540 yards, and 18 touchdowns last season. And again, was really the definition of reliability. You're talking about a guy who's incredible in the slot, easily, I think, probably the best slot receiver in this class. Also a great runner, smooth route runner. Maybe not as good as Jerry Jeudy or Van Jefferson, but he easily could be as good. And if he's not, he's right there. I mean, he's just right, like a smidgen behind them, if you will. And it's just, again, just so polished. So reliable. To me, he's like a quicker Cooper Kupp, and really is a dynamic wide receiver and playmaker, high IQ player as well. I mean, if you send him on option routes, he's phenomenal at dissecting coverages and dissecting defenses, and really would be kind of a safety net and blanket for Drew Lock. And again, has that versatility to play on the outside, but then you throw him in the slot, and he might be one of the top 3 or 4 slot receivers day one in the entire league. I mean, this kid especially is a great red zone threat as well, a great hands catcher who really high points the ball, and just smart, athletic, reliable. I just love this kid, and I would be thrilled if those 3 guys are not there. I'd be thrilled to still take him at pick 15. Still has good size, and again, you've seen what Cooper Kupp has been able to do with the Rams and kind of the career he's had so far. This guy could be a quicker, better version of Cooper Kupp. I don't want to disrespect him by saying this, because I think he's, you could argue he's just as good as those 3 guys I just talked about, but he'd be a hell of a consolation prize if we're not able to get those 3 guys, and I think he'd be a tremendous impact player for us, and again, would be kind of that safety blanket for Drew Lock. And you have him in the red zone with Noah Fant and Courtland Sutton. I mean, our red zone offense would be a thing of beauty to watch going forward in the next season. So Justin Jefferson out of LSU, another wide receiver I'd love to see the Broncos take, especially at pick 15, or even trade back a couple spots if we're not able to get one of those top 3 guys, so to say. Still would be a tremendous pick here for Denver. All right, the next wide receiver I'm going to talk about is Michael Pittman Jr. out of USC. He's a guy that I could see falling out of the first round, and honestly, if the Broncos, say at pick 15, aren't able to get Lamb, Jeudy, Ruggs, or even Justin Jefferson, and say they go for a linebacker or offensive tackle, maybe they go a cornerback that they really like, something along those lines, and we don't go receiver at pick 15, Michael Pittman Jr. is a guy in the 2nd or 3rd round I think would be a stellar pick for us, and again, still fill that need at the receiver position, and probably could easily be a day one starter. Again, out of USC, 6'4", 223 pounds, has great size for the position. Ran a 4.52 40-yard dash at the combine, had a 36.5-inch vertical and a outstanding 4.14 20-yard shuttle. Again, is a guy that has great size, but also pretty great quickness and speed for his size. Really a guy that is a physical presence at the wide receiver position and is pretty comparable to Courtland Sutton. So if you're telling me I can have two Courtland Suttons on the outside at the receiver position for my offense, again, I'm all for that. Sign me up. Is a guy that's a good blocker, again, knows how to utilize his size, and was really productive last season. His senior year there for the Trojans at USC, had 101 catches, 1,275 yards, and 11 touchdowns. Is a deep threat, is a guy that attacks the ball, high points the ball, is a great red zone threat, huge jump ball threat. I mean, again, you have him and Courtland Sutton in the red zone, you're kind of telling the defense to pick your poison. He's a guy that's going to be valuable with those 50-50 balls, and really is a guy who I think is a better route runner than he gets credit for. A lot of bigger wide receivers, again, tend to rely on that size and speed more so than being kind of a technician with the route running. And again, he's not Justin Jefferson or Van Jefferson or Jerry Jeudy when it comes to route running, but I think he's a lot better than people give him credit for. He's very capable in that aspect, and he's also a very good playmaker with the ball in his hands, again, given his size. I just think he'd be a great second or third round pick, again, if we're not able to find the receiver we want in round one at pick 15, whether it's trading up even or trading down back into the first round and getting. I think he'd be a great value pick in the second or third round. I think he's a guy a lot of teams are overlooking. I think him and also Chase Claypool for Notre Dame. These are these two guys that are these two athletic kind of freaks. Chase Claypool more so than Michael Pittman Jr., but they're two really big wide receivers that I think teams are going to kind of kick themselves for passing on in the first round or the early parts of the second round even, and are still going to be great value picks. Again, it's the depth of this class. It's why it's so special, because of guys like Chase Claypool and Michael Pittman Jr. and Jalen Reagor even, and KJ Hamler, T. Higgins. So many of these guys are going to be productive outside of the four guys I talked about earlier. And I would love to see Michael Pittman Jr. in a Broncos uniform. And again, I think he'd be a guy that we could get in the second or third round, and then in the first round maybe get our offensive tackle at the same time, kind of kill two birds with one stone, if you will. Receiver I'm going to talk about is Denzel Mims out of Baylor. I love this dude. I think he's a guy that maybe falls to the second round, and the early part of that second round could be a guy that we target. But I think if we're really going to draft him, and again, say we're not able to get the guy we want at 15, we're not able to move up, he's a guy that I think we could trade out of 15. 15 might be a little high to take him, trade back a couple spots, maybe in the early to mid-20s, and then take him there. I think would be a stellar pick. Again, kid is a freak. He's your height, weight, speed prototype. Again, out of Baylor, 6'3", 207 pounds, ran a 4.38 40-yard dash, which is just incredible speed at that size. At a 38.5-inch vertical, ran a 4.43 20-yard shuttle. Again, is your height, weight, speed prototype. Insane catch radius. I mean, this guy is a remarkable red zone and jump ball threat. The 50-50 balls, he's going to go and get them. He's going to outmuscle and just kind of bully corners and defensive backs in those positions and situations, again, especially in the red zone. But he also has that long speed, if you will, evident by that 4.38 40-yard dash, to be a deep threat, and even with his size, still be valuable for you in that aspect and take the top off of defenses. And was also a guy that was very productive at Baylor in the last 3 seasons, had 182 catches, 2,901 yards, and 28 touchdowns. And again, he's definitely raw in some areas. He's not as polished of a route runner as, say, Jerry Jeudy or Van Jefferson, but I think he's a really special talent, and again, is kind of the prototypical wide receiver with the size, with the speed, with the insane catch radius, and is a guy that I think you really can kind of work on the route running with, and again, pairing him next to Courtland Sutton would just be an absolutely vicious combination for us at the wide receiver position. And is a guy that I think you can take in that late first round, if you trade back maybe even the early portion of the second round, and still get great value and get a great dynamic playmaker to add to your offense. All right, now I'm going to talk about a couple offensive tackle prospects that I'd like to see the Broncos target in round one of tomorrow night's NFL draft. These three guys are definitely going in the first round. I'd be honestly stunned if these three guys make it out of the first 20 picks. In the case of two of them, I'd be shocked if they make it out of the top 10. So I think we're going to have to trade up to get one of these guys. But again, if the Broncos, are filling more of a need at the offensive tackle position than the receiver position, I think all three of these guys would be huge. And let's be honest, our offensive line has been absolute shit for years now. It's been, Band-Aid after Band-Aid. John Elway signing these guys in free agency or missing on drafts that just haven't worked out. And we're in dire need, of an offensive tackle, especially at the left tackle position. So these are three guys, again, I think we're probably going to have to trade up for. Maybe one of them's there at 15. But I'd be ecstatic to get any of these three. And the first guy I'm going to talk about might be my favorite player in this entire draft, and that's Mekhi Becton out of Louisville. This guy is a physical specimen and a freak in every sense of the word. 6'7", 364 pounds, ran a 5.10 40-yard dash at the combine, put up 23 reps on the bench press, has the great arm length that you would want at the tackle position. Has 35 and 5/8 inch arms, has a 7-foot wingspan, so has great length, and again is just a physical specimen. They don't make human beings like Mekhi Becton very often, even in this league, and again is truly gifted from a physical standpoint. You're talking about absolutely incredible feet and footwork, especially given his size, the true definition of a dancing bear. When you hear that scouting term a lot, when people are breaking down offensive linemen and they call them dancing bears, this guy is the definition of that. And again, is just such a mountain of a human being. I mean, this is a guy, he can miss blocks and barely touch guys and still pancake them. I mean, that's how physically gifted and strong he is. Has freakish strength, freakish hands. He's a guy, if he gets a hold of you, you are fucked. I think that's what Chris Sims said in his scouting report of him, and I couldn't agree more. This is a guy, if he gets a hold of you, you are in fucking trouble. And I look at him, and again, the physical ability he has with the length, with the incredible movement skills in the feet, obviously his sheer strength and size, and what an offensive line coach like Mike Munchak can mold him into, given his immense physical ability. I mean, I would just love to see what Mike Munchak can do with him. And again, in terms of physical traits, has it all. Is a guy that's a mauler in the run game. And he has the athletic ability, even with his size, to get to the next level. Again, he just wants to destroy people. I mean, he destroys people in the run game. And again, he's just a physical specimen, man. I can't say enough about this kid's physical traits and physical ability. I mean, he does have that prototypical franchise left tackle potential. I mean, you're talking about a guy with a 7-foot wingspan. I mean, again, in a 6'7", 364, running a 5.10 40-yard dash. I mean, again, you just don't make. They don't make human beings like this guy very often, and I could see this guy going as high as 4. I don't think he gets past number 8, honestly, with Arizona, even 10 with Cleveland. So if we want him, we're probably going to have to trade up, but he'd be a guy well worth trading up for and be a huge addition to our offensive line and be a great building block for our offensive line. Can move Garrett Bowles to the right side. Honestly, I've said before, Garrett Bowles shouldn't even be on the team anymore, but definitely should be playing left tackle, so you could move him to right tackle if you're going to keep him. And to have this guy protecting Drew Lock's blind spot, I'm sure Drew Lock wouldn't mind that at all. But there is a couple red flags, a couple questions with him. Obviously, he's got to keep his weight in check. I mean, there were some reports that he was close to 400 pounds during the offseason. That's not going to fly. I mean, he's got to keep his weight in check. He's got to, stay under 370 pounds, probably 375 at most. I mean, 364 I think is a good spot for him. So that's obviously things you got to find out about him as the person in interviews and in the pre-draft process, even though it obviously was different with everything going on this time out. That's something you really got to be sure of with the kid. So he's got to keep that weight in check. He did play in kind of a basic system at Louisville, but that's not really his fault. So, you can't really penalize him for that, but you kind of ask yourself how he'll adjust to blocking schemes and just an NFL offensive scheme. And he was flagged for a failed drug test, I believe, at the combine. I'm not sure exactly what for, but again, that is a bit concerning. So this is a guy that, you know, there could be some risk that comes with him, and he really is a guy that has all the physical tools in the world. But there is some of those things I think you as a front office have to really do your homework on, because this is a guy, to me, has the physical ability to be an Orlando Pace, to be a Jonathan Ogden, a Hall of Fame, once-in-a-lifetime left tackle, excuse me. But there's also a chance that this kid could be Tony Mandarich, and that's very scary, especially if you're going to take him high or trade up for him. But I love Mekhi Becton. He really is probably my favorite prospect in this entire draft class, and if there's a way we could get him, would be a huge addition to the offensive line here in the Mile High City. Next offensive tackle I'm going to talk about is Andrew Thomas out of Georgia. He is the guy of the three I'm going to talk about. I just talked about Becton, and the next guy I'm going to talk about after him, I don't think there's a real chance that they're there at 15, but Andrew Thomas, I think there is a chance he does fall to pick 15, and what a great value pick I think he'd be for us. Out of Georgia, 6'5", 315 pounds, ran a 5.22 40-yard dash at the combine, put up 21 reps on the bench press, ran a 4.66 20-yard shuttle. Is a guy that really is kind of your prototypical left tackle, has the DNA you're looking for from that position in pretty much every facet. You're talking about a guy that has great length, has 36 and 1/8 inch arms. I mean, again, has that phenomenal length you're looking for at the left tackle position, has good foot speed. He's played in a pro style offense at Georgia. He's a guy that has the versatility to deal with speed or power rushers. And again, it's just kind of a prototypical left tackle. Really has been coached up well there at Georgia, and can play both tackle positions. If you don't feel comfortable enough with starting him at left tackle day one, he's a guy that could be a day one starter at right tackle for you as well, and has the versatility to be kind of a swing tackle and go back and forth between both positions. And really, this guy's gritty. He's a mauler in the run game, and is pretty polished, man. I'd love to add him to the offensive line. Again, I think he'd be a really safe pick as well. Maybe his ceiling isn't as high as someone like Mekhi Becton or some of these other guys in this draft. I think there's really a very slim chance that he turns into a bust. And there is some things he can work on. His pad level is a big thing. You've seen a lot of people break down and talk about his pad level tends to get a little high at times. He could use some polish in pass protection, no doubt. But he's really solid, and I think he's ready to go technically in pretty much every area from day one, and this guy that has extremely strong hands. As Chris Sims, when he was talking about Andrew Thomas's hands, I think was quoted saying, when he gets his hands on you, it's night-night, it's over. So like Mekhi Becton is a guy that just has really great hands, strong hands, and really just has some small things to work on, but really is ready to go, I think, day one. And again, with Mike Munchak as our offensive line coach, I think he could easily fix those little things and polish those little things that and those areas that maybe Andrew Thomas is lacking a little bit. But I think he's a very safe pick. Would be a great pick for us at number 15. And of the offensive tackles that we'd want to take at that spot, probably has the best chance of being there. I think there's a great chance Tampa takes him at pick number 14. So he could go a pick right before us, but I also think there's a great chance he's there at pick 15 for us to take, and would be a very, very solid and safe pick for the Broncos. And the last offensive tackle I'm going to talk about is Jedrick Willis out of Alabama. Maybe the best offensive lineman in this entire class, maybe the best tackle in this entire class, and really is a kid that doesn't really have much weaknesses at all. Out of Alabama, 6'4", 312 pounds, great size. Ran a 5.05 40-yard dash, ran a 4.84 20-yard shuttle, has 34 and 1/4 inch arms. Is just a great athlete for the tackle position. Has probably the best feet in this entire class and footwork in this entire class at the offensive tackle position. He's dominant in the run game. He's great in pass protection. He really is kind of a Lane Johnson, Jason Peters type. Has elite power and quickness. He could play either tackle spot, so has that versatility there. I think it's highly doubtful he falls out of the top 10. I think it might be even highly doubtful he falls out of the top 5 or 6. But if the Broncos really like him and want to trade up, he'd definitely be a guy worth trading up for. And if there's some way in God's green earth he falls to 15, what a steal he would be for us. Again, this is a kid that just has it all, has really elite athleticism, for the position. Again, great feet, as I mentioned, is great in the run game and pass protection, and also is a high IQ player. He's great in terms of his blitz and stunt recognitions. He's versatile, he's consistent, has the strength and agility you want, and really has it all, and is just, he's as solid as it gets, and really I think is as safe as it gets in terms of draft picks in this entire draft. And really is a guy going to be a day one starter, probably a sure bet to be a Pro Bowler, and would be an outstanding addition to our offensive line. But I think there's really no chance he falls to 15, and we're going to have to move up quite a bit to get him, but would be a guy I think definitely that is worth getting. Really be huge additions to the middle of our defense, and really fill that void we've had for, it seems like, a decade now at the linebacker position, ever since Dan Trevathan left to Chicago, really. So the first guy I'm going to talk about is Kenneth Murray out of Oklahoma, 6'2", 241 pounds, ran a 4.52 40-yard dash, put up 21 reps on the bench press, had a 38-inch vertical. I mean, this guy really defines what a modern-day linebacker is. He can hit, he can run, he can cover, he's got the physicality you want in the middle of the field, has pretty damn good instincts, has really good read and recognition skills, has great coverage skills as well, which again is much needed, especially for our defense, and really would be a huge addition in the middle of our defense. I think would be a leader day one, even as a rookie, and really could be a guy that really kind of changes the culture of our defense, the culture of our locker room, and really is one of the more vocal leaders of our team from day one. I think he really has kind of that Ray Lewis type leader potential. I really believe that. And really, you're talking about a guy who is a tackling machine. Had 325 tackles, 36.5 tackles for loss, and 9.5 sacks his last 3 seasons at Oklahoma. It's a guy that will blow up the run game. Really has a nose for the football, again evident by those 325 tackles. Just flies to the ball, and really has the length, athleticism, and speed you want from the position. Again, in the modern day NFL, it's a guy that can cover tight ends. He can get to running backs, and again has great instincts as well. And really, I think is a stud at the linebacker position. I wouldn't mind taking him at pick 15. Honestly, I think he's that good. Again, I think he has Ray Lewis type potential. Again, physically, just has everything you want from the position in terms of the athleticism, speed, the ability to cover, but also has that physicality as well, especially in his ability to play downhill and kind of get through the trash, if you will, especially in the run game. But even if we trade back a couple picks, he's a guy I think we could get, and again, it would be a huge addition to the middle of our defense in a plethora of ways, but also be a huge voice to add to our locker room, and I think a great leader from day one, even as a rookie. And the last prospect I'm going to talk about here in this video, and the other linebacker prospect I'm going to talk about here in this video, is Zach Bond out of Wisconsin. I love this guy a lot. I think he is one of the most versatile players in this entire draft. 6'2", 238 pounds, ran a 4.65 40-yard dash at the NFL Combine, put up 24 reps on the bench press at a 32.5-inch vertical, ran a pretty solid 4.31 20-yard short shuttle, and again is just a guy that's so versatile. Probably not a guy you're going to take at pick 15, but maybe you trade back to the end of the first round or even the early part of the second round, get him, and again fill that huge void that you have in the middle of your defense. He really is a guy that is a Swiss Army knife. He really can do it all. He can be an in the box linebacker, or he is a guy that can be an edge rusher for you. He really compares very well to Kyle Van Noy, who was with the Patriots, I believe is now with the Dolphins. Is definitely kind of a Kyle Van Noy type, but probably a better athlete than Kyle Van Noy, and a little more explosive as well. And again, has that versatility to do multiple things for you. He can play in the box, or he can line up as an edge rusher for you and add some value for you there. And really kind of showed that versatility off when he filled the stat sheet at Wisconsin over the past 3 seasons. Had 152 tackles in that span to go along with 30.5 tackles for loss, 15 sacks. Again, you see kind of that pass rushing ability. He has 3 forced fumbles, 2 interceptions. Again, really is a guy that can do it all, has great instincts and great diagnostic abilities in terms of the ability to read offenses and again, kind of read and react, if you will, which is what you want from the linebacker position. And maybe he's not the athlete that a Patrick Queen is, so to say, or a Kenneth Murray is, but he still, I think, is athletic enough to cover tight ends and to cover some running backs for you, and has great sideline to sideline speed, and again is kind of more than just a traditional linebacker. Again, maybe you can't box him in as a traditional linebacker. Maybe that worries some teams in terms of drafting him purely as a linebacker, but I think he's a great weapon that you want on your defense because of his versatility, because you can't just box him in as a traditional linebacker, because he has the potential to not only be an in-the-box linebacker but also be an edge rusher for you and add value there, and add value in the ability to cover tight ends and add to your passing defense as well. And I think you look at a guy like Vic Fangio and his defensive mind and his philosophies and just his ability and his scheme. I think he'd love to have a guy like Zach Bond and that weapon to kind of line up in multiple areas and do multiple things with. So I love this kid, truly a Swiss Army knife, and I think would be a great option for us if we're to trade back in the first round, or even a great early second round pick for us, and a huge addition once again to the middle of our defense.